My parents made me raise all my siblings from age 6 while they collected government money for fake childcare. When I escaped for college, they called CPS on me, but their own lies became the trap that destroyed them. During my third week of college, a child protection investigator called and asked why I had abandoned 3 children without arranging care. I told her I was 18 and the children were my siblings. The investigator paused. Then she said my parents had reported that I was their primary caregiver, received money for watching them, and had disappeared without warning. They claimed my youngest brother had been left alone because I selfishly moved 4 hours away. What my parents didn't know was that I had saved every message ordering me to miss school, every childcare form they made me sign, and every photograph showing my siblings at home, while the government was paying a woman named Denise to watch them. They called CPS because they believed the system would frighten me into returning. Instead, their report created an official question they could not answer. If I had been raising the children all those years, where had the childcare money gone? By the end of that week, 2 agencies were examining records my parents had spent 12 years falsifying. My name is Elena. I'm 19 now, but I was 6 when my brother Noah was born. My sister Lily was born when I was 10, and my youngest brother Ben was born when I was 13. Our parents, Tanya and Mark, called us a close family. What they meant was that I performed the work that allowed them to live as if they did not have 4 children. My earliest memory of being responsible for Noah is standing on a kitchen chair to warm his bottle while Mom slept. I was 6. Dad worked an evening warehouse shift, and Mom said the baby had kept her awake all night. She showed me how to test the bottle on my wrist and told me to wake her if anything looked wrong. At first, I felt important. Other children had chores. I knew how to prepare formula and fold tiny clothes. The help became responsibility so gradually that nobody announced the change. By 8, I woke Noah, made breakfast, packed his daycare bag, and waited with him for the bus. By 9, I stayed home whenever he was sick because Mom said her job had stricter attendance rules than school. When Lily was born, Mom stopped pretending the arrangement was temporary. She called me her little second mother. Relatives praised how mature I was. Nobody asked why a 10-year-old knew how to soothe a newborn at 3 in the morning. Dad's work schedule changed repeatedly. Mom worked part-time at a salon, then stopped after Ben was born. Even when both parents were home, I handled meals, baths, homework, and bedtime. Mom said children responded better to me. Dad said he had earned rest because he paid the bills. If I complained, they reminded me that family helped family. At 11, I was invited to a classmate's birthday party. Mom agreed until Lily developed a mild fever. Mom told me to stay home because she had already made lunch plans with a friend. When I protested, Mom said, "You can attend parties when you stop acting like a child." That sentence described my entire childhood. I was too young to make decisions, but old enough to absorb every consequence. The childcare fraud began when Lily was a toddler. Mom qualified for a state assistance program that helped low-income parents pay approved providers. She told me the program would finally allow her to work more hours. The listed provider was Dad's cousin Denise, who ran a small, licensed daycare from her house. Denise did not watch us. I met her only at holidays. Every few weeks, Mom placed attendance sheets on the kitchen table. The forms claimed Noah and Lily had spent specific hours at Denise's daycare. Mom told me to copy times from a calendar and sign Denise's initials where she marked the page. I asked why Denise did not complete her own forms. Mom said Denise was busy, and the paperwork was only a technical requirement. I was 11 and believed adults could make strange rules sound normal. Later, I learned the state paid Denise, who returned part of the money to my parents. Dad called it helping family keep benefits inside the family. When Ben was born, the amount increased. Mom sometimes showed relatives toys or clothes she claimed childcare assistants had made possible. In reality, I watched all 3 children while she shopped, met friends, or stayed in her bedroom. My days followed a schedule more demanding than most jobs. I woke at 5:30, prepared breakfast, checked backpacks, and walked Noah and Lily to their bus stop. After school, I collected Ben from a neighbor who watched him for 1 hour, cooked dinner, supervised homework, cleaned, and put everyone to bed. The neighbor believed Mom worked until 4. Mom was usually home. I did homework after midnight. My grades remained high because school was the only place where effort produced a predictable result. Teachers called me gifted and organized. They did not know I completed essays with a sleeping child beside me. At 14, I joined the debate team. After 2 practices, Mom said the schedule was disrupting Ben's naps. I quit. At 15, a teacher nominated me for a summer science program. Dad refused to sign the form because no one could replace me for 6 weeks. Dad told me, "Opportunities come and go. Your siblings only get one childhood." He never seemed to notice that I also received only one. Noah understood more as he grew older. At 12, he began helping with dishes and bedtime. Mom praised him for occasionally helping me, even though the children were her responsibility. I tried not to resent him. He had been placed inside the same system, only in a different role. The first adult to call it parentification was my guidance counselor, Ms. Patel. During my junior year, she asked why I had missed 19 mornings. I said Ben struggled with school drop-off and Mom needed help. Ms. Patel asked why his parent could not take him. I gave the usual explanations about work and transportation. She listened, then said, "Elena, helping your family is different from being used as the family's childcare plan." I cried in her office because nobody had ever separated those ideas for me. Ms. Patel helped me apply to colleges far enough away that commuting would be impossible. She also connected me with a youth counselor and showed me how to request copies of my identity documents. I began collecting evidence because my parents monitored my mail and threatened to withhold paperwork. I photographed the fake attendance sheets before Mom submitted them. I saved messages demanding that I leave school early. I kept a calendar of the nights my parents left me alone with the children. I wasn't planning to report them. I wanted proof for myself that I had not imagined the workload. I received a full tuition scholarship to a university 4 hours away. The award also included campus housing and a meal plan. When I read the email, I locked myself in the school bathroom and cried. I waited 2 weeks before telling my parents. Mom stared at the acceptance letter and asked who would take Ben to school. Dad said the university was unnecessarily far away and suggested the local community college. I explained that the scholarship covered costs they had always said they could not pay. Dad replied that free tuition did not cancel family obligations. Mom then offered me a deal. She said I could attend if I came home every Thursday night and returned Sunday evening. That would allow her to schedule most work and errands on weekends. I said no. Mom cried and asked how I could abandon children who viewed me as their mother. I told her that sentence was exactly why I had to leave. Dad became angry. He said I had spent years benefiting from their home and now wanted to disappear as soon as I became useful elsewhere. I reminded him I had been useful since I was 6. For the rest of senior year, they tried different methods. They hid my mail, told relatives I was becoming selfish, and repeatedly created emergencies during scholarship meetings. Dad refused to drive me to orientation. Ms. Patel arranged transportation through the school. Noah found me packing one night and asked whether I was leaving because of them. I told him I was leaving because I was their sister, not their parent. I promised to call and reminded him that he was not responsible for replacing me. Noah said Mom had already told him he would need to step up. That confirmed I could not negotiate my way to freedom. If I stayed one more year, there would always be another reason. I moved into campus housing in August. Aunt Maria, Mom's older sister, drove me. She knew I helped at home but had not understood the extent until she saw the schedules and messages. Before leaving, Maria told my parents she would check on the children but would not become unpaid childcare. For 3 weeks, I experienced ordinary life. I attended classes without checking my phone every 10 minutes. I ate meals I had not cooked. I slept for 9 hours one Saturday and woke terrified that I had forgotten a child. Mom called constantly. She said Ben was late to school, Lily's hair was never brushed correctly, and Noah had become disrespectful. Each complaint was framed as evidence that the family collapsed without me. I offered to help the children with homework by video twice a week. Mom said remote help was useless and demanded that I come home. When I refused, Dad stopped paying my phone bill. I activated a low-cost plan I had prepared. Mom then told the younger children I no longer wanted contact with them. Noah messaged me from a school computer and said Mom had left them alone overnight while she and Dad attended a concert. He had missed school to care for Ben. I called Aunt Maria. She picked up the children and confronted my parents. Mom returned furious and said Maria had kidnapped them. The children were home again the next day. 4 days later, CPS called me. The investigator, Ms. Green, said my parents alleged that I had been the children's paid caregiver and left without providing notice or replacement care. They provided my university information and claimed my departure created immediate danger. I explained that I was their 18-year-old daughter and had never been paid. I told Ms. Green that my parents had legal responsibility for the children and had known about college for months. Ms. Green asked why my parents described me as the primary caregiver. I said that part was true. Then I emailed her my calendar, messages, and photographs of attendance forms naming Denise as the government-funded provider. The contradiction was simple. My parents claimed I had abandoned a paid caregiving role. Their benefit records claimed Denise had provided care during the same hours. Both stories could not be true. CPS visited the house that evening. According to Noah, Mom tried to make him say I normally watched them after school and had left unexpectedly. Noah told the investigator I had moved for college and Mom had known since spring. Lily showed the investigator the emergency dinner shelf I had stocked before leaving. Ben said he had missed school because nobody woke him. The children were not removed that night. My parents were ordered to establish safe supervision while the investigation continued. Aunt Maria agreed to temporary check-ins. My parents assumed that meant the report had failed. Dad called and told me CPS now understood I was responsible for the disruption. He demanded that I come home and confirm their version. I recorded the voicemail and sent it to Ms. Green. The Childcare Assistance Office opened a separate review after CPS asked who was supposed to be providing paid care. Records showed Denise had billed for days when she was traveling, when the children were in school, and when messages proved I was caring for them. Denise initially claimed I had volunteered at her daycare. Her facility's entry logs contained no record of me or my siblings. When investigators interviewed her employees, several said they had never met the children. Mom called me again, this time crying. She said the state had frozen childcare payments and Denise might lose her business. Mom told me I could fix everything by saying I had misunderstood the forms. I asked why she had called CPS on me. Mom said she only wanted an official person to explain that I could not walk away from family responsibilities. I told Mom, "You asked the state to examine who was caring for your children. Now it is examining the answer." Dad threatened to report that I had signed some attendance sheets. I was terrified because that was true. I had copied times and initials when I was a child. Ms. Green connected me with legal assistance. The attorney explained that being coerced as a minor was not the same as designing or profiting from the scheme. I provided everything honestly, including forms containing my handwriting. That honesty mattered. My parents had expected my fear to keep me trapped in the lie. The situation escalated when Dad and Mom left the children alone again during the investigation. Noah called Aunt Maria after Ben became sick. Maria arrived and found no adult in the house. This time, CPS placed all 3 children with her temporarily. My parents blamed me for the removal. They told relatives I had fabricated abuse because I wanted freedom. Several relatives pressured me to leave college and take custody. I refused. That was the hardest boundary I have ever set. I love my siblings, but taking full responsibility at 19 would have preserved the same system under a different address. Aunt Maria had stable housing and wanted to serve as their temporary caregiver. I remained their sister. The investigations took months, not days. My parents were ordered to complete parenting services and demonstrate reliable supervision before reunification could be considered. The benefits agency demanded repayment of improperly claimed funds. Denise's daycare license was suspended during the fraud case. My parents were also charged in connection with false benefit records. The legal process is ongoing, so I will not pretend one dramatic hearing destroyed them overnight. What destroyed the life they had built was the record they created themselves. Years of claiming paid childcare existed, while privately insisting their oldest child had always been responsible. Dad lost his warehouse job after repeatedly missing work for hearings. Mom's relatives stopped defending her after Aunt Maria showed them the messages. My parents sold their second car to pay legal expenses and part of the benefits debt. They still describe themselves as victims of an unforgiving system. My siblings have lived with Aunt Maria for 8 months. Noah attends counseling and joined a school robotics club. Lily no longer asks permission before taking food from the refrigerator. Ben's attendance has improved. I call them several times a week and visit during scheduled weekends. At first, Noah tried to hand me school forms and ask what to pack for Ben. I reminded him those tasks belong to Aunt Maria. We are both learning how to be siblings rather than substitute parents. I am still in college. My grades dropped during the investigations, but the university allowed me to reduce my course load without losing housing. Ms. Patel sends occasional emails reminding me that staying enrolled is not selfish. Mom writes that she forgives me for tearing the family apart. Dad says I will understand when I have children of my own. Neither has apologized for making a 6-year-old responsible for a baby or for trying to use CPS as a weapon when that child finally left. Sometimes I feel guilty because their call triggered consequences that affected everyone, including my siblings. Then I remember I did not create the fake providers, the attendance sheets, or the nights without adults. I only answered the questions my parents asked the government to investigate. There were pieces of the investigation that made the scale of the lie clearer even to me. The attendance calendar used different colors. Blue marked hours Mom claimed to work. Green marked hours Denise would bill. Red marked school holidays, when the claimed childcare day could be longer. My actual caregiving schedule never appeared. On afternoons when Mom expected a program inspector, she told me to keep the children away from the front windows. We stayed in a back bedroom until she texted that it was safe. I grew up believing every family receiving assistance hid from the people administering it. Investigators compared school attendance, Dad's employment records, Mom's reported salon hours, Denise's billing, and my saved messages. On several dates, Denise billed for all 3 children while school records showed I had been dismissed early to collect Ben. On other dates, Mom claimed shifts at a salon that confirmed she had stopped taking appointments months earlier. Denise eventually admitted returning part of each payment to my parents. She claimed Mom had assured her I was old enough to provide care and nobody was being harmed. Her statement connected the false attendance sheets to money my parents received. My handwriting appeared on some forms, exactly as Dad threatened. I explained that Mom had placed them in front of me when I was 11 and told me to copy the calendar. Investigators asked questions without treating me as either completely helpless or equally responsible. Telling the full truth was frightening, but each accurate detail made my parents' changing explanations less believable. The case also revealed that Mom had reported increasing work hours after Ben's birth, even though she was spending fewer hours at the salon. The extra childcare payments did not support employment. They became household income while I performed the care for free. I used to wonder whether that meant my parents had children for money. I do not believe their motives were that simple. They loved us in a possessive way. They wanted a large, close family without accepting the labor or limits involved. The fraud allowed them to tell themselves the practical burden had been solved, and I allowed them to avoid seeing who actually carried it. After CPS first visited, Mom assigned most of my tasks to 12-year-old Noah. She told him the state would take Ben and Lily if he failed to prove the family could manage without me. Noah stopped answering my messages because Mom checked his phone. At school, he finally told a counselor he was afraid to go home because he had forgotten to pack Ben's lunch. My parents responded to an investigation of parentification by selecting a younger replacement. That disclosure contributed to the decision to place the children with Aunt Maria after the next overnight absence. Some relatives still insisted I should take custody instead. They said the children viewed me as a mother and would feel safest with me. I nearly agreed. I researched apartments near campus and calculated whether I could study part-time while raising them. Aunt Maria stopped me. She said, "If the solution requires you to surrender your future again, it is not a new solution." Maria had stable housing and could become a licensed kinship caregiver. She receives legitimate support, hires approved after-school care, and asks other adults for help. Watching her has shown me that caregiving does not require one person to disappear inside it. During my first weekend visit, Maria told me to sleep while she made breakfast. I woke to my siblings laughing in the kitchen and panicked because I was not supervising. Then I heard Maria tell Ben that she was the adult and had everything handled. I cried before joining them. Noah initially tried to give me school forms and updates about Lily's appointments. I handed them back to Maria. He became angry and said I had promised not to abandon them. I told him refusing the parent role was not refusing him. In counseling, Noah is learning the same distinction. He joined a robotics club but almost quit when Ben's tutoring overlapped with practice. Maria told him Ben already had transportation. Noah went to the meeting and later called me because he felt guilty for enjoying it. I told him guilt was not proof that he had done something wrong. I am learning to believe that sentence too. College has been difficult. My grades dropped during the investigations, and I considered withdrawing. The university allowed me to reduce my course load while keeping housing. Jasmine, my roommate, sometimes reminds me that no child is waiting in our residence hall when I wake, convinced I forgot breakfast. Freedom did not feel peaceful at first. It felt irresponsible. I had been trained to experience rest as evidence that someone younger was being neglected. My parents' legal case remains unresolved. They have repaid part of the benefits debt and are participating in court-ordered services. Reunification will depend on sustained changes, not apologies made during hearings. I do not know whether they are capable of that. Mom writes that I misunderstood a desperate family survival strategy. Dad says government programs are designed to punish poor parents for technical mistakes. Neither addresses the central fact that they called CPS, claiming my unpaid labor was essential, while billing the state for care supposedly provided by someone else. Their plan failed because it required two incompatible versions of me. To control me privately, I had to be the real caregiver. To collect money publicly, I had to be irrelevant to childcare. Once investigators placed both stories beside each other, the trap closed around the people who created it. I did not destroy my parents. I stopped absorbing the consequences that had hidden what they were doing. Their own report supplied the question, their own records supplied the contradiction, and their own decision to leave the children alone during the investigation supplied the final proof. I am not celebrating what happened to them. I am celebrating that my siblings and I are finally allowed to be children and siblings instead of evidence inside our parents' financial story. So, was I wrong for giving CPS and the benefits agency every record I had after my parents tried to force me home? Or did their own report finally give me the right to stop pretending